With a developing story today, the Oregon Supreme Court made a big decision this morning. Thank you for joining us for Newswatch 12 at 4. I'm McKenna Marks.
And I'm Tim Quidadamo. The state Supreme Court decided that the Oregon senators who had 10 or more unexcused absences during last year's legislative session are now unable to run for re-election. Joining us live is Senator Dennis Linthicum of Klamath Falls, who did have more than 10 unexcused absences during last year's session. Senator, thank you so much for joining us today.
You bet. It's good to be here tonight.
And Senator, the first question we have for you is just what was your reaction to hearing this ruling from the state Supreme Court today?
First of all, I wasn't entirely shocked. People certainly know that the Supreme Court has been populated with individuals that were nominated to that position by Democratic governors. So there's a little bit of an allegiance to the Democrat Party at large. And it's no surprise that they fell into the trap that had been set by Measure 113, backed by union proponents who wanted their union money coming out of the state legislature from 2 years ago, where we denied that opportunity. And so they put the ballot measure onto the ballot. People, keep telling us, do your job, show up to work. But that's not really the issue that's at stake. It's a much bigger issue than that.
And Senator, are you and your team looking for a way that a federal court could potentially chime in and maybe make a different ruling in the future?
You bet we are. We currently have a response. It's a reply to a federal court case. We've got 12 pages of documentation you can probably get your hands on. We make note that this is a free speech issue. To disqualify somebody for denying quorum, which is a constitutional right, I'll add, severely it limits their rights as somebody in the opposition or minority party. And what this means is future elections will be saddled with this problem of how do you get somebody who disagrees with the majority. In other words, this is a minority rights issue, who disagrees with the majority, and how do those like-minded candidates, conservatives in the state of Oregon and rural parts of our county, how do those people get elected and fight for the things they believe in?
And are there concerns in the state Republican Party that the voices of the constituents, will be lost after the November election?
Well, it's certainly an issue. Remember, the Senate president, who happens to be a Democrat because the majority is a Democrat, he's the one who organizes committees. He sets up the rules. The majority votes in approval of those rules, and they organize the entire game. What's interesting is, how do we get a voice in edgewise as a minority party member? How do we as a minority party get into this contest of political ideology and political ideas? They've got some valid ideas. We've got some valid ideas. How do you meet in the middle when, if you disagree, you get thrown out of office by the Senate president and the majority party?
And our last question for you today, Senator, moving forward, do you have any plans or bills that you will be focusing on at the beginning of the legislation that starts on Monday?
Yeah, every senator has two bills. They'll go get assigned to a committee, and then they'll be heard in the committee arena. I have not yet seen where my bills are getting assigned or if they'll get heard, which is another issue. How do you make sure the ideas that you have to present to the public and are looking for a conversation about, how do you ensure that those get to the floor for an appropriate discussion when the political majority says, if you do that, we're going to throw you out of office?
All right, Senator Linthicum, thank you so much for joining us from Klamath County tonight.
Thank you. I look forward to having more discussions about this issue.
Absolutely, a very interesting and important story we'll continue our coverage on. So thank you again.